Hello and welcome to our latest session of Theology on Tap. My name is Michael McLean and I work in campus ministry at St. Thomas More College. And we have a special guest with us today. He's got a background in ecumenism and he's one of the key leaders for our diocese for the synod on synodality. So we're going to be speaking with him today. So please join me virtually in welcoming Father Joseph. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well. You did a good combo of hello and wave.
It's a very exciting to be with you this evening.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you received our invitation. So we just thought we would start off by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your vocation story, and how God has called you in this life and how you've responded.
Okay, so I think what I will do is to give you a bit of my autobiography, and then later on maybe look through it to see the thread, vocation that flows through it. Yeah. So for starters, I hail from Gigira. It's a tiny village somewhere in northern Nigeria, Kaduna State. I come from a family of 8. And I'm second in the line. We lost 3 and we are 5 now. And that bumped me up to be the first, on the line. I started altar serving at the age of 7, not quite 8 at the time.
Okay.
And it kind of progressed. And then I found myself in the seminary, which is a high school back home. And then after my seminary studies in the high school, I felt I needed to go further. So I went to the major seminary, and then I was ordained a priest in 1994. And then I went to Dublin, Ireland to do my postgraduate studies. That is where I studied ecumenism and interfaith relations. So my master's was largely in ecumenical encounters between the churches. But my PhD was a PhD done purely on research, and that was on Muslim-Christian relations in northern Nigeria, which was quite an interesting study.
Oh, wow.
So after that, I went back home. I headed a high school as principal, and then I was a visiting lecturer to the seminary there, and then eventually I ended up being the rector there. And then, fast forward, I'm here in Canada after my tenure in the seminary there. Now, how does my vocation story fit into all this? People love the kind of St. Augustine story, the bar fights that eventually turns into a saint. But mine is not that explosive. It's something that started with a fire that kindled and then just kept on going and going and going, giving me very strong conviction regarding what I wanted to do with my life. So at the age of 5, I can still remember how it was, though I cannot put in words the experience, but I had this profound sense of God. How to put that experience in words up till tomorrow, I cannot. I keep on going back to it, but I cannot articulate it. But I just had this sense that there is someone bigger than I am, somebody willing to embrace me. I felt so peaceful, so joyful, so, comforted at the time. So even when I experience very hard times, I like going back, to that experience. That even at that tender age of 5, when I could barely have been said to have attained the age of reason, I had that kind of experience. There are other experiences like this further down the road. Maybe they may appear during our chat here, but this for me is the most profound. And then I found after that time that the best place for me is always when I'm at prayer. Now, you may know that we are obligated to pray 5 times a day. Now turning that obligation into something very joyful can be very, very challenging. But I just find out that when I'm praying, especially before the Blessed Sacrament, I'm kind of at home, So tying all this together, I just felt, the best place for me will be, the priesthood, because naturally that is where you find that, So my entire journey may look like one achievement after the other in life, but the thread that runs through that or those experiences is my primary experience with God that kind of provide light, for me. Yeah.
That is such a beautiful, I just love to hear about that kindling of the fire, because sometimes I hear people in conversations say, well, I'm a cradle Catholic, as if that maybe is not a good thing or something,
That is true.
And I really do think that we can build and build and build from the gifts that we've been given, the faith that we've received,
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about young adults and Theology on Tap, how would you recommend that young adults identify their gifts and their call from God, and any advice or recommendations?
Yeah, that is a very beautiful question, Mike. In fact, maybe it's good to draw an analogy, from real life. There's this whole thing about motivation. People want to be motivated. How do you get motivated? So people wait and wait and wait, delve into self-help books, look for mentors to tell them how they have achieved, because they are just waiting to see, is there anything that can motivate me to act, But we are beginning to realize more and more and more that, motivation does not come before action. You take action, then you are rewarded, then you are motivated, then you want to take more action. Without taking that action, no matter how imperfect it is, motivation doesn't come, So you can sit on your back and read all the books you can in the world. Unless you take that first step, motivation doesn't come, So it is the same thing with wanting to know what to do, right, with your life, And I bet a lot of people struggle with that, especially in their late 20s, when the turbulence of teenage has settled and they are faced with real life, they kind of wonder, what do I do with my life? Well, the thing is, just go out and do something, The first thing you do may not be the perfect thing. It may not even be where God wants you to be. But the fact that you are doing something, you may be rerouted by another experience, When we look at our lives with benefit of hindsight, the pattern seems to be very, very clear, but it's not very clear when we are really living life, right? It's hindsight that is very clear, So I believe that is why a lot of people, tell you, well, I don't know what to do with my life, as if they're saying, give me a map with which to travel. But that's not the way it is, It's like you travel and then make a map of where you travel, Yeah. So I would just tell them, put yourself out there. When you put yourself out there unselfishly with the desire to serve, there's always going to be a need somewhere. There is always going to be a place that is calling upon you to volunteer. Go to the animal shelter, come to church. There are a lot of things, that may need your attention in church. Go to, there are a lot of places that need service. I think the key is service. We are created to know God, love him, and serve him, So it's still the backward thing too, right? So we'll go serve. We know God in serving. We love him, whom we have discovered, And the more we do that, then we are kind of, propelled. And then we kind of discover, where God wants us to go. Now, having said that, it is just for some people. Thomas Merton is somebody who wrote very, very deeply about the spiritual life. And he had the kind of conversion viewers on this show would love to hear. But having said that, at a point in his life, he said that when we are looking for what to do with our lives, sometimes it looks as if we are guessing because we are always changing, going back and forth. But he says sometimes that is what we are supposed to do, So if you find yourself in that situation, don't panic, just be open to grace. That is your reality. Live it as perfectly as you can, then you may find fulfillment that way too.
Right. Oh, that's great advice to go out and act. And oftentimes young people go out and get a job and find out that's what I don't want to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now I can decide what I do want to do.
That is it, yeah.
So we thought maybe it would be a good idea to hear a little bit about your background in ecumenism, and the question I thought maybe I could ask was, what positive things have you seen happen in the work of ecumenism?
Ecumenism is countercultural. Let me just maybe start off that way. And anything that is countercultural, you do not go out looking for a field ready to be harvested. It's always in the margin. You always talk about the seed that is being sown, the little efforts by different people, So I studied ecumenism, not because that was my passion at the time, It's just that my bishop called me and he said, you know what, we need someone to go study ecumenism, And what is very strange is that even when I got back with all the enthusiasm, I kind of garnered through the course of my studies, he told me, well, I don't need you to do it now, just go into education, because he said the place is not ready for ecumenism yet, But yeah, well, I went into education, out of obedience to him, but I still did ecumenical work. He didn't frown. He frowned about it. He was excited too that I was able to do that. So I got back to Nigeria at the time when the implementation of the Sharia criminal law, was in place in northern Nigeria. So I decided with a group of people to form a group that would better understand the implication of Sharia for interreligious encounter, And that group did very well. We got out a little booklet, which has been referred to a lot of times,
Okay.
Something, just a little seed again, that has kind of blossomed. It has not radically changed the situation there. Things are still not, as good as they are, but those conversations, kind of take place. And that's very important, That there was this nun too that came on the scene, Sister Kathleen McGarvey, who organized a group of women, to see how, they can also talk across, the religions, So you've got little seats like that all over the place, But the overall culture will tend to favor polarization, even within different faith traditions, you've got a lot of polarization. Talk much of when you talk about cross-religious experiences. In fact, I used to make a lot of jokes sometimes to say we need more ecumenism within the church than even with other Christians, and that's the truth, because I think we tend to be caught up in identity politics, in the sense that we want something to define us. We want parameters to live life with. And we do not want anything that confuses our parameters, So once something that is different is there, then there's a bit of confusion, in the parameters that one has chosen for oneself. Some people can handle that a bit better than other people. In fact, some people get so confused when that happens that they just want to shut the door, so that they get clarity once again, So we are all differently wired. We are all differently gifted by God, And I understand with people who cannot deal with difference, right? But, difference keeps on staring us in the face. And that is where ecumenism, kind of comes in, Now to bring it back home here in Saskatchewan, my experience in Humboldt ecumenically has been a very, very great experience,
Right.
And it is one that I want to see how I can replicate, here in Saskatoon. People always remember the vigil that took place after the Bronco bus crash.
Yes.
But people sometimes maybe feel it kind of just fell from the sky. But that is not the case. In fact, when people ask me about the vigil, I tell them that, before the bus crash, we were attending an ecumenical event. So the churches came together and invited the Watoto choir from Uganda. So we're in the hall enjoying that, ecumenical experience when we got news of the bus crash. So since we were there already, all the ministers just went to the Jubilee Hall, of the hockey arena there in Humboldt.
Yeah.
And then we sat down and then, we're together on the table and it's a question of, so what do we do now, And that is how the vigil, the plan for the vigil came up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So without the friendship we enjoyed as ministers, that would not have been possible,
Right.
because it was within a very short time that was done, So I enjoyed a lot of friendships, with the ministers there, And that is very ecumenical. And whenever people see their ministers like that, then they kind of want to also interact with each other, in a way that is very pleasant. I know it's one of the hallmark of rural Saskatchewan that churches always want to do things together, but that ecumenical encounter was very, very, important for all of us. So if you ask, is ecumenism making a difference? I'll say yes, but maybe not to the proportion that you want to see happening, but even as I'm speaking to you, men and women are walking across the denominations, sowing seeds of encounters, Some of them are very transient, some are very permanent, but they are all seeds of encounter.
Right. What a great testament to having relationships built with people from across the spectrum. And when those things do happen, you don't have to start the relationship.
Exactly.
It's already in place,
Exactly. Yeah.
That's terrific. Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. The latest, the last time I saw you, it was online because you were coordinating some of the synod work for the diocese. And so there was a number of people on Zoom, and there you were kind of guiding us along. And so tell us about how you kind of got involved with the synod, and maybe some people might not know what the synod on synodality is, but maybe you could sort of talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, my involvement with the synod started at Elkridge. If you ask any priest, how did you get involved with that, especially diocesan priests, they will tell you, my bishop got me into it. So this is no different. We're at Elkridge, we had different presentations on the synod. And then I was online for breakfast, and Bishop Mark tapped me on the shoulder and he said, can I see you after? And I said, oh yeah, no problem. So we met after, and he said, I want you to serve on the synod committee. I thought, well, no problem, So that is what got me, started in it. Yeah. But before then, we've been trying to explore as ecumenical officers of Western Canada and part of Eastern Canada, the ecumenical implication, of the synod, how our ecumenical partners can help us. Right. Because some of the ecumenical partners, they run their churches by synods, like the Anglican Church. We're all aware of Anglican synods, that's just what they do, Yeah. So we're trying to see how they can give us a better understanding of the process that Pope Francis is making us to uncover within our tradition, because it's part of our tradition. It's nothing foreign to our tradition, Right. It's just that it's one of those treasures that we've kind of forgotten about and allowed to go dormant, So how maybe looking at their experiences can help us, uncover this treasure that we have, has been a great ecumenical concern for us. So even at Elkridge, we had the Anglican bishop coming to speak to us about the reality of synodality, regarding the experience within the Anglican tradition. So we've been exploring that, and then so Bishop now asked me to, do something about it within our diocese here, and I gladly accepted. For many reasons. One, I think that the synod is positioned in such a providential way. 2 years ago, we were forced to kind of lock down, our churches because of the virus, and all the openings have been intermittent. Even when we were allowed full opening, the moment people hear news of the virus again, maybe of another strain and mutation, it affects, the way they relate to each other and what have you, So the synod is now positioned at the point whereby we are kind of transitioning gradually, learning to live with the virus and knowing that we have to live our normal life without the virus, So it's given us some sense of the possibility of recreating community that has been taken away from us. The Synod Committee here in Holy Spirit is a blessed committee, a great group of people, very, very creative and very ingenious. So they decided that we do what you call a beta session, whereby you gather some people who will eventually become facilitators when the synod does, start. But it's meant to give them an experience of what the synod is all about. so that they can be enthusiastic and also reach out to other people, to bring them in. You will agree with me that in the Catholic Church, apart from Sunday Mass, there is hardly any activity that brings people back together. So no matter how beneficial that activity is, if you do not go the extra mile, it will be very difficult to get 1/10 of your parishioners, to come and do it, except if you choose to do it within Sunday Mass. So the idea of having
would be one way to ensure participation.
That's the only, and don't do it after communion because they will leave. And it's everywhere, Mike. It's not just here in Canada. It's everywhere.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know.
So because of that, we felt, if you've got a group of people to come and experience it, so that they're not just hearing about it like everybody in the pews, and then they can reach out maybe to invite their friends, then at least you've got a core group to work with, So yesterday we had our beta meeting, we had it, and we started at 7:00. Now, despite the roads conditions and all, people did come. What surprised me was not that they even came. What surprised me was that they didn't want to leave.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had the sessions were done by 9:15, but people were still around, in the hall till way past 10 p.m. Wow. So there's this hunger for community. So that's why I'm saying that, the synod is coming at a very critical point when we are moving from shutdown, intermittent attendance, to the possibility of rebuilding our communities. Every parish should see in this synod a gift, with which we can use to revitalize, our community, So that for me is the most exciting part of the synod. But the synod also seeks to recover, a concept in the Second Vatican Council, Lumen Gentium particularly, that's the church as a people of God, paragraph 92 and 93, speak about sensum fidelium. And sensum fidelium has to do with what they call the sense of the faithful. So the council is so confident on the fact that when we are open to the Holy Spirit and we try to look at issues together, then from the bishop to the last of the faithful, there is no way we can disagree on any issue concerning faith and moral. But the emphasis is listening to each other and listening to the Holy Spirit. And that is what the synod is all about, So what Pope Francis is trying to do is to get us to see how we can recover synodality, not just for this specific event that will round up next year in Rome, but as a way of being church, so that when there are critical issues in our parishes, is there any way we can come and journey together on those issues? Because most times you hear parishioners saying that, well, I don't know what's happening here, and it's not that the priest sometimes doesn't invite their input, but they just feel as if they are not the ones who should be saying something about things, So synodality is a way of telling every Catholic that you matter, your views matter. We want to hear it, And whenever I visit any Catholic family, I know that everybody has an opinion on everything under the sun, So we want to hear, the opinions that people have, regarding their faith life. So in a nutshell, I think that is the value of the synod. And I wish that a lot of people, wish is very weak. I hope that a lot of people will capitalize, right, on this moment, on this gift given to all of us, so that we can once again become a vibrant community. To use the words of Pope Francis, to be a Catholic, joining with other Catholics, allowing non-Catholics to help us in our self-evaluation. That is very important.
Yes.
Now, one of the greatest confusion on this particular synod is the subject matter. We are used to hearing synods on the Eucharist, for example, synod on families. So you know that you are dealing with, issues regarding the Eucharist, the family, the environment, But here you have a synod on synodality. So the method and the object are the same. So it's like,
Right.
so, yeah, so what are we gathering about? So you hear people asking, it's like, we are not gathering about family. We are not gathering about Eucharist. So what are we gathering about? Well, we are gathering to find a way wherever we can be better community. So it's that confusion of method and object that throw a lot of people off. And we are usually very task oriented. So what is the task? That's the question, right? What is the task? Yeah. So if you notice, we insisted for coordinators training not to have a lot of input, but to get people to just experience the process.
Yeah.
Because we felt you can tell people everything about what synodality is all about. You will not make any headway. But if you get them to experience it, then they know how the method and the object are the same, right?
Yes.
The theory wouldn't solve that. The experience will. So that's the thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, we're going to have a conversation about conversations.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's so much confusion, okay, get them to have the conversation and then tell them this is what we mean.
That's right. I have to say, I'm really excited about it. I really do think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think if any young adults are watching and they want to be connected, to make sure that they leave a comment or email us so we can connect them to groups in parishes or through the internet, because it's such a valuable conversation. And
absolutely.
And the Saskatoon Diocese had a synod when I was a university student, and I remember those conversations. I never remember gathering in that way. I remember I was at St. Joseph's Parish, and we would gather. I met people that I had never met before at the parish, and I just feel like this really is an opportunity and a gift. And like you say, as we kind of regather, as we're kind of coming out of this pandemic moment, it really is a great moment. And you know what? We're doing things through the college, still socially distanced. We're doing some things on Zoom and online, and so it's completely safe, but we can still engage in that listening and that conversation. And the church wants to know what you think. This is a really great opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said yes. You answered the call. That was very good.
Thank you, Mike.
I have a question for you about your vocation and your life. And the question is this: who encourages you? What sustains you? And how do you find support in your life day to day and in your vocation?
Yeah, that's a very beautiful question. Because okay, I will go a bit unorthodox again. There is this book that I read many years ago that says that emotional problems are not fixed in isolation. You need community, to fix them, because the emotional problem originated within a community, within a social context. So how do you intend to fix it outside the social context? And it goes to say so much about the fact that we are social beings. While we do not crave for dependence, we do not crave for independence either. We crave for interdependence, where, you relate with people, you have your space, you engage with them and give them their space as well, So it is in the different interactions that we grow as people, so also with my vocation, well, my first mentor was my mom, very, very devout Catholic and women leader, in fact, I still remember how I used to visit people with her, especially people who are in distress, so that she can console them and pray with them, So I watch her do all that, And one of the incidences I also still remember that happened when I was at about the age of 7 was when our parish priest had an accident, a car accident. And she led other women, to go visit him. And I was in the park, I was in the group. And he was very excited to see me. So he said, "Oh, come over here." And I went, and he told me to, and I went, and I just decided to sit down on the bed. And I almost sat on his leg, that injured leg. And he kind of screamed, and I realized there was something wrong, and I got up. You know, I was in grade 2 at the time, equivalent of grade 2. So he asked me if I could read. I said yes. So he gave me a newspaper, and I said, read it. Well, of course, some of the words were too big for me, but I kind of scrambled to read through. And he expressed a great deal of surprise. Whether it was genuine or not, it doesn't matter. But for me, it was great at the time, you know. So he was the first priest, I would say, I kind of met one-on-one, you know. And that sort of seed in me, I would say, you know. So my mom's capacity for outreach, you know, is something that helped me, you know, growing up. And I still see it in my ministry. I like reaching out to people, you know, like if I know you, for example, in the parish, and I don't see you in for a Sunday or two, you know, I want to kind of reach out to you to know what's happening, you know. Are you all right? You know, do you need a visit? You know, stuff like that. And it all came from her. Then I had a lot of priest mentors too, you know, growing up. Some of them my lecturers, you know, and then my friends, you know. You may know Father Peter Ebidero in Martinsville.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah. So we went to high school together. So
Oh,
from
I
the
didn't
age of
know that.
11.
Oh.
Yeah, from the age of 11. And then we were ordained on the same day, you know. So
Okay.
it's great to have someone, you know, like that. Yeah. So the different relationships in my life help, you know, sustain me, you know. And then we spoke about my prayer life earlier on. You know, that for me is a great, great source of, you know, of sustenance. You know, thank God for prayer. Thank God for the rosary. Something I got from my mom too, you know.
Right.
She was so devoted to the rosary. And I always wondered why, you know. Well, back home, my parents will have been born in that generation that was transitioning from the traditional way of computing time to the modern way, to the Western way of computing time. You know. So her birthday, of course, nobody actually knew. But whoever baptized her assigned a birthday to her. And guess what birthday? September 8th, the birthday of Our Lady. And I said, well, okay, no wonder she's so devoted to Our Lady. You know?
Perfect.
So it's kind of, yeah. So prayer kind of sustains me a lot. And it will surprise you to know that I've got this spiritual friend that I do my compline with unfailingly, except if I'm not in town or I'm not disposed, because it's via FaceTime, you know, because he's not here in Saskatoon, so we do it via, you know, FaceTime. And it's very easy, you know, what we do. We use the compline in the breviary, but then we start with what, you know, you want to pray for, and then you go into what you are grateful for. Now, it's easy to always remember things we want to pray for, but I tell you, when it comes to gratitude, there's always this tongue tightness about it. But since I know that I have to talk about things I'm grateful for, I watch out for it throughout the day. You know, it's been so beautiful an experience, you know, for me. And then for the confitio, you know, for things we've been ungrateful for, we do the confitio, then we do the, you know, the night prayers for the day, you know, very, very beautiful way to end the day, you know. I've been blessed by a lot of friends who nurture my vocation, and I'm very grateful to God for that. You know, I know some of us are by nature introverted, you know, some are very extroverted, but whichever way, we need quality relationship, you know, in our lives. Now, this is very, very true, especially with the way our world is really going virtual, you know, at the moment. Even before COVID hit, you know, people were already complaining about how we are so hooked on our devices, how it is easier to send a text message to somebody who is not with you than to communicate to somebody who is right, with somebody who is right in front of you. You know, we're all, you know, crying about that. And it's a reality, you know. So I encourage young people, you know, to reach out to other people. Friendship is a very strange thing sometimes. Sometimes you need to give to get. You know what I mean by that is you don't wait for people to make you their friends. You make people your friends. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's the way it works. You know, because you have some people saying they are so lonely, you know, they've got no friends, nobody is reaching out to them. You know, but the question is, who am I reaching out to? You know, we need people in our lives, no two ways about it.
That's right.
Most of what I've achieved and accomplished and I've been gifted with in life came through people. You know, God can only minister to us through people. So we need people. Yeah. So people have sustained my priesthood. Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we really are called to community, and it's Jesus modeled that through his entire ministry, right? And so it's people we need in our lives as a community. Yeah, that's a great thing to sustain your ministry. We're coming to the end of our interview, and so I thought that maybe we could just finish up with just one thing that you're looking forward to. What's something that you're looking forward to?
I've mentioned what I've been looking forward to. To tell you how excited I am about it, so I've mentioned it already. You know, to come into a parish during a pandemic is no mean feat.
Right. Because
for starters, people have to introduce themselves to you over and over again because they are masked. You can see that. So if you ask me, the one thing I'm looking forward to is transitioning from the regime we are in right now into a parish community. You know, to have those beautiful programs that bring people around, to have all those kids crying around, you know,
that's right.
because they really make the church real, you know. Right now, it is as if there's a muzzle, you know, on us, you know, no thanks to the virus, you know, unfortunately, you know. But we have to really start strategizing, you know, on how we can make our parishes, or to make Holy Spirit Parish specifically, not a mass center, you know, but a community where people can feel, you know, at home. Having said that, you know, we've been taught about the value of technology too, you know, so we can create virtual communities too for those who will not be able to come and be with us in person, you know. Community, that's a key word. That's what I want to build. And one thing that will surprise you is the founder of Facebook, Mark, his surname gives me some trouble sometimes to pronounce. Mark Zuckerberg, is it?
Zuckerberg, yeah.
Yeah. You know, he kind of carried out an analysis some time ago. And then he said that in the last few decades, community has been decimated by about 1/4. It's good to look at what he's saying. Because you see, before COVID, community was already in crisis.
Right, yeah.
You know, and you just need to look around. Like, okay, I'll take my experience of one event in one place, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day in Humboldt. When I came in 2016, the church was packed and people were in the parking lot. We had to get the speakers outside for people to hear.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, by 2019, that was before the pandemic, we hardly had 3/4 of the church full. So what happened?
Right.
You know, and the more you talk to people, the more you hear them saying people no longer volunteer anymore. You know, so it's like community has just been decimated. People are preferring virtual community to actual community, you know, and we've been seeing the effects all around. So Mark made a comment that made me really laugh. He said something like, Facebook intends to take over the obligation abdicated by the parish priest. So he knows that it is our role and responsibility to build community. He said that's what Facebook intends to do by building online community, by putting people who are alike, you know, in and giving them materials, right, so that they can interact with each other. But we've seen the kind of community it has created now, the polarization we're experiencing, you know, because once you are in a particular chat room, that's all you get. You do not get
that's right.
the other materials that the other people have been fed with, you know. So based on our current experiences, what excites me is visioning and dreaming on how I can rebuild the community that has been put on hold by the reality of COVID. So that is what keeps me awake. That is what makes me tick at the moment.
Okay. All right. Well, you've got a mission. Fantastic. Well, I just want to thank you so much today for your time, because it's just been fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing your story and speaking to young people and giving some advice. I just think it's the best. And I really hope if you're out there and you're watching and you're interested in connecting to synod groups, that you get in touch with us, because we really want to connect you at this time. It's just an important opportunity that all of us are invited to. And so thank you so much, Father Joseph. Thanks for
Thank
being
you,
with
Mike. I didn't know I was expected to have a pint of beer here. I would have gone home to do that. So you got one up on me. You can drink on my behalf too.
We will do it in person. We'll do it in person. Community. We'll build
That's
community
good.
once we're able.
All right, then. Take care.
Thanks so much for your time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. We'll see you.
Yeah.